You are Locked On Bruins Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Da, 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 da. We are the mighty Bruins. Da, da. Ho, ho, ho! Force up, Bruin Nation. What's going on? And welcome back to the latest edition of the Locked On UCLA Postcast, coming at you live, as always, after every single UCLA game here, right here on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel, and after the fact, wherever you get the Locked On UCLA podcast feed. The Bruins with a big Big Ten statement, a third straight conference win in the new conference with a 20-17 victory over the Iowa Hawkeyes. All those people, all those fans wearing black and yellow, coming all the way from Iowa to see the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl. And boy, are they going back home to Iowa stunned, because not only did they lose to UCLA, who's supposed to be this, basketball school who's going to struggle in the Big Ten in terms of football, but they also get beat at their own game. Iowa, the best run game in the Big Ten. UCLA, the worst. And what happens? UCLA runs for 211 yards on the ground and holds the Hawkeyes to just 80. They beat them at their own game. A big-time statement win. And wait a second. Are the Bruins bowl bound? Are you kidding me? Who would have thought that a couple weeks ago? Before we jump into this one, as always, a shout out to everybody in here, whether you're watching it live or after the fact. It's been really fun. Obviously, I'll say, if you don't know who I am, by the way, I am Gavin Carlson, former credentialed UCLA journalist. I went to UCLA. I was born and raised a UCLA fan. Just graduated this past June, but I covered this team with the Daily Bruin for multiple years, so I've seen this team from every angle. Growing up a fan, being there as a student, and also covering this team as a journalist. So I know this team. I've interviewed DeShaun Foster. I've interviewed Ethan Garbers. I've interviewed Kane Madrano. I've interviewed Olufemi Oladejo. I've done it all. And now I get to sit back and root for this team, and boy, oh boy, have the tides turned, and is this a fun team to root for again. So shout out to everybody in here. That's my spiel on who I am, and a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's show. It is FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Now let's get started talking about what a statement win. Now, the score is going to look close, 20-17. You're going to see that UCLA turned the ball over a couple times, and Ethan Garbers didn't have his best game when you look at the stats. You're going to see that Iowa had to go to their fifth-string quarterback for most of the second half. And some people are going to try to take some credit away from UCLA as a result. But no. Just like last week, another game where the score was way closer than this game was. UCLA dominates Iowa in terms of yardage, in terms of beating them at the line of scrimmage, which is what Iowa does, okay? The headline of this game is that UCLA belongs in the Big Ten. And not just in terms of, okay, you've now won 3 games in a row in the Big Ten. We haven't won 3 conference games in a row since 2022, and obviously that was in the Pac-12. The over-under on the win total was 3.5, 4.5, maybe 5.5. We're up to 4 wins already, despite starting the season 1-5, okay? The schedule was so tough, and everybody, including myself, sees this team lose multiple games in a row, fall to 1-5, and we're thinking, oh man, we're about to embarrass ourselves in our first year in the Big Ten. But no. The headline is not just that UCLA wins 20-17, and it's certainly not UCLA survives at home. No. It is that UCLA belongs in the Big Ten. It's books and ball, not just books, okay? Because not only did you win this game against an Iowa team that is 6-3, 4-2 in the conference coming into this game, but you beat them in a Big Ten way. If you beat this team where it was soft plays. I don't even know. Like the wide receivers making plays on the outside while I was running it down our necks and we just survive in a close, high-scoring, surprising game or something. Maybe someone on the, the East Coast or in the Midwest says, oh, I guess UCLA beat Iowa being the West Coast team, and the West Coast team just happened to win in good weather, but could this team survive if they went to Iowa or if they went to some of these East Coast schools? No. That's not what this was. This was Iowa consistently, every year, is known for having one of the best defenses in the country every year for like decades, okay? Especially at the line of scrimmage, especially in the linebacking core, and lately their defensive backs have been elite NFL now caliber players as well. This Iowa defense is elite every year, okay? Especially at the line of scrimmage. And then on the other side, of course, it's become a joke on how bad Iowa is at scoring touchdowns and whatnot. But even when they struggle, they're going to run the ball down your throats. They're at least going to protect their quarterback because they're going to have an elite offensive line every year. They've got guys in the NFL at every offensive line position, tackle, guard, center, everywhere. They're tight ends, George Kittle, TJ Hawkins, whatever. Tight end U, everything, okay? The line of scrimmage is what Iowa does. And they came to the Rose Bowl as a team. Their fans came to the Rose Bowl as a fan base, expecting, at the very least, they don't know if they were going to win. They were certainly favored to win, I think by a whole touchdown. But not only did they lose, they got hit in the mouth, okay? And so this is a big statement. Big statement. I don't care if there's a fifth-string quarterback. Iowa's not a team that relies on the quarterback. UCLA, we lose a lineman in this game offensively, and we run for 211 yards. In the first half, they had no answer. And the only reason this game is close and not 3-score game at halftime is because Garbers turns it over twice in the red zone. 3 turnovers in the first half for UCLA. Or 3 turnovers, in the whole game for UCLA. 3 turnovers for Iowa as well. 5 turnovers in the first half combined. This game was a mess. And it, blurs the fact that the Bruins dominated, okay? And so that's the headline number 1, statement win, because of not only the result, but how you did it. We're going to talk about the implications for later in the year, or what this would mean as a whole this season, because you've now won 3 games in a row, and a bowl berth is looking like a real possibility. You just got to win 2 of your next 3 now, and you're expected to beat Fresno State. You got to win 1 of 2 against one of your Pac-12 foes in USC or Washington, okay? The bowl game is a possibility, but we're gonna get into the X's and O's, of course. Right now, though, I talked about it being a statement win. You know what the other number 1 headline is? Maybe 1B to 1A being big-time Big Ten statement win. It's DeShaun Foster, okay? Bieniemy deserves his credit. He called the great game. Certainly, the entire defense, the staff, Akaiko Malloy, all the linebackers, they are going to get their credit from me and from this fan base, but from me in the next segment. But let me tell you why this game is about DeShaun Foster. Above, even an Ethan Garbers, a TJ Harden, the defense. It's because the offensive line for UCLA is not more talented than the defensive line of Iowa. The defensive line and linebacking crew for UCLA is certainly talented, but Iowa has an elite offensive line every year. And yet, despite certainly being outmatched in terms of our offensive line versus their D-line, their front 7, and maybe it's even on the other side, it wasn't even close. And so who gets the credit for that? The X's and O's, of course. The offensive coordinator calling the plays, the defensive coordinator calling the plays. But this was about DeShaun Foster instilling a different culture with this team. Okay? How in the world does powder blue UCLA just dominate, out-physical Iowa? It's not with talent. Because we're talented at the running back position a little bit. At quarterback, I think Garbers is one of the best in the conference still. Okay? Like I said, the speed guys on the outside, we saw some of the younger guys, Quasi Gilmer, especially have a big game. Logan Loya is certainly not a big physical Big Ten type of guy. And I know, we're going to get to how talented this linebacking core is. But for our offensive line in the run game to do what it did, to push Iowa 5 yards into the second level on every run, for TJ Harden to run over guys, and for our linebackers and defensive linemen to make Iowa's run game look like the like they belong in the mid, the whack or something. DeShaun Foster deserves credit, okay? Because this wasn't X's and O's for the most part. This was just heart. This was a head coach that can will his team. And I'm not usually one who says it's all about, this emotion and all this. I normally like to look at the nitty gritty. We'll get into Eric Bieniemy, especially that call at the end, 3rd and 8, play action pass, perfection. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into the X's and O's, the reasons why the defense was successful. But above all else, statement win because of the culture at UCLA that is being built. DeShaun Foster, not letting this team fear anybody. We saw it in glimpses at LSU, at Penn State, in losses, even at home at times against Oregon. But especially those two games, while we were losing. And DeShaun Foster, he told the media, he told the fans, and I was critical because it sounded like he was making excuses and ignoring the reality that we were getting blown out on the field. But he said, it's coming. We're building something. And maybe it wasn't on the field yet, X's and O's. But up here, mentality, confidence, belief, which is what the reason DeShaun Foster was hired. We were starting to see that in glimpses at LSU in the first half, in glimpses at Penn State. And boy, has it come to fruition now. 3 straight Big Ten wins. They're all gutsy wins. You beat Nebraska at Nebraska. You beat Rutgers at Rutgers. And then Iowa comes here and you out Iowa on a Friday night. Statement win. Statement streak. 3 in a row. The Bruins belong in the Big Ten, and the Bruins might make it to a bowl game. But regardless of what happens the next 3 games, we can all take a sigh, or have a sigh of relief, take a deep breath, and say, we're in good hands under DeShaun Foster after all. And that's the biggest takeaway of all. When we come back from our first break here on the Locked On UCLA Postcast, we'll get into more of the nitty-gritties. We'll tell you the key moments in this game. UCLA fell behind 10-0 in this game. You forget it because UCLA was dominant, but they were down 10-0. 17 points in the second quarter. We'll tell you how that happened. We'll get to the key players of this game. There were many for UCLA. And then we'll look forward in the last segment. We always do, because there's exciting things to look forward to now. Wow, a turn of events for this program for sure. We'll talk about it all after our first break here on the Locked On UCLA Postcast. Now, today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. And I can say this from my own experience. I just graduated from UCLA in June. I was looking for jobs. Some of you now know I work for the Clippers. Where do you think I found the job? On LinkedIn. I didn't use other platforms. I was using LinkedIn, okay? On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn, okay? 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions, they apply. Back here live on a victory edition of the Locked On UCLA Postcast. If you don't know who I am, I'm your host, Gavin Carlson, former UCLA student, lifelong UCLA fan, and a former credentialed UCLA journalist covering this team for 4 years. We already talked about the big-time implications. Sometimes I like to start with the specifics and then get into the big picture, but today it felt like we got to start with the big picture because this was just a statement above all else, a statement win. Now we're going to talk about the nitty-gritties in this game, and then we'll get to the future, okay? The big tech, we already talked about the running game, 211 yards on the ground for us, just 80 for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Their running back came into this game with 20 touchdowns already on the season. He scored the Iowa record, 21 touchdowns already. They're only 10 games through, but he was shut down tonight. 18 for 49. This guy was running for 300 yards in games, basically. 18 for 49, okay? Unbelievable job by the front seven for UCLA. And it didn't start right away, okay? The UCLA, they took a couple blows early on, okay? They certainly did. But then they had the knockout punches coming. They fall behind 10-0 because UCLA starts with an interception on just the third play of the game, 3rd and 14, or the fourth play of the game, 3rd and 14. Garbers does what has found success at times, especially in this win streak. He evades pressure. He looks like Patrick Mahomes. He's trying to make a Superman play. Did not work out for this one. He throws a pick, and Iowa, starting at the 41, they don't have to do much work. They have a huge run, or a huge pass, to Jacob Gill for 32 yards. They get right down to the 2-yard line, and they run it right in to Caleb Johnson right away. It's 7-0. Then UCLA does all this work. They show off the offensive line domination that we saw for the remainder of this game, the run game. TJ Harden for 3. There was a Garbers pass to Loyal for 23. Logan Loyal, a huge game. But then it's Harden for 10. Harden for 14. The run game getting the job done. 2nd and 10 at one point at the Iowa 20. Berger for 4. Even after a false start, Garbers has a huge 3rd down throw. That was the other key takeaway in this game. UCLA dominating the run game, and the few times they fell behind and had a 3rd down, the 3rd down conversions, we were 7 for 10. I think 8 for 11 by the end of the game. Just perfection. Okay? And so, yes, it's infuriating that this drive ends up being another pick. Garbers drilled as he throws. Probably shouldn't even try to attempt this one. I think he sees the pass rush about to hit him, and he rushes the throw. If you're going to rush the throw, you can't long arm it. You just got to flick it and get it out, or just throw it at the ground. How many times do you see the smart quarterbacks, the Aaron Rodgerses, the Drew Breeses, the Bradys, when they're about to get hit, they just throw it to the ground. They don't even try to throw it up. And so that's the next step for Garbers. He's made all these heroic plays because the offensive line is so bad in pass protection. He's made all these heroic plays, and so he's got all these bad habits now. His feet are quick, and he feels like he's got to create something on every play. Play like that, it's not 3rd down and long like it was in the first drive where you escape and then you try to make a heroic play, you see a guy open. This is 2nd down at the 3. Just throw the ball away. You got 3rd and goal from the 3. You're going to at least get a field goal. He tries to force it. The ball flutters. Interception. Back-to-back picks for Garbers. You wipe away a huge drive, and you're thinking, oh, man, UCLA's in trouble early. As an underdog at home, we know there's not a lot of life at the Rose Bowl. At times, this fan base, they expect wins. They expect exciting play. We know how LA fans are. I'm saying this as a Bay Area native. I'm sorry. It's true. But talk about the response. Iowa does march down, get all the way into field goal range. They get all the way to the 6, but we're able to stop them, hold them to 3, and then UCLA turns the tide. Another nice drive, 11 plays, 36 yards, and then easily the biggest special teams play in a while for UCLA. Mateen Bagani, 57-yard field goal. If he misses this, it's 10-0 Iowa. They've got the ball at midfield, and it might be 13-0 or 17-0 Iowa. And I don't know. This team has heart under DeShaun Foster, but I don't know if we have that much heart to come from 17-0 down and win. But luckily, he drills the field goal, and then on the very next play, Brendan Sullivan, who was not good in this one, picked off by Carson Schlesinger. And this is the other statement I want to say right now. UCLA is making a return to being linebacker U. Of course, we're not going to be the linebacker U. There's the Alabamas, the Ohio States. We get it. But this used to be the program of Anthony Barr, of Eric Kendricks, okay? Of elite guys like that, making tackles everywhere. Of Miles Jacks, right? We're kind of building this again, okay? I mean, I don't know what you call Latu. He's kind of like an Anthony Barr, outside linebacker, DN, whatever you want to call him. But my word, Schlesinger, Medrano, Oladejo, and Cajo at times, elite. We know how elite Darius Moausa was at times last year. Let's build this. This is the type of win where not only does it help you for this season, but imagine if you're a linebacker who wants to play in the Big Ten, and you're used to Iowa being the front 7 dominant team, especially when you're watching this game, and UCLA's linebackers do what they did tonight, and they're all number one, it's the motor for all 4, but really the main 3, Oladejo, Schlesinger, and Medrano. It's motor, first and foremost. Of course, Oladejo, he's a freak of nature in terms of his body, his size, his speed. But he's not like crazy agile or anything. He's just got a motor. I've met him in person as a guy. He's a great guy. He's got a motor about him mentally. Kane Medrano was a running back. We converted to a linebacker. He was fighting for playing time. And now he's an elite linebacker. And then you don't even need me to tell you the story of Carson Schlesinger. This guy's a former walk-on, and he's number 2 in the Big Ten, top 5 in the nation in tackles. And then today, what does he do? He gets a pick here. He gets another pick later. Okay? 2 picks from Schlesinger. This first one turns the tide. It's 10-3. Then Schlesinger gets the pick. UCLA marches down the field. Garbers finds Titus. Beautiful throw. Touchdown. It's 10-10. But the dominance from our linebackers was just getting started. Next time, Medrano just rips the ball away from Brendan Sullivan. Talk about statement. I mean, replay that a million times. Whenever someone in the Big Ten tries to tell you that UCLA is soft, show them this play. Show K. Medrano rip the ball out of their big quarterback's hands. Just rip it out. Okay? Unfortunately, the turnovers continue. Garbers turns the ball right back over, but then the dominance continues from our linebackers again. There's a sack from Femi Oladejo on Brendan Sullivan. Iowa's got a punt. And then UCLA finally, they should be up multiple scores already. It's 10-10. Finally, they go down. They score really quickly. 5 plays, 56 yards in 56 seconds, mainly because of a beautiful Ethan Garbers pass to Logan Loya in the seam. 29-yard touchdown after he just completed an 11-yard pass on 3rd down. We talked about the 3rd down efficiency. Converts on 3rd down, and then hits him. This is an elite throw. And this is what, I was defending Garbers all year. I'm sorry, this is not a throw that Justin Martin makes. Touch on the seam route over the linebacker before the safety, right where he needs to be. And then Logan Loya, he's been counted out at times this year. Small guy, big time tough play, takes the hit, breaks the tackle, scores 17-10 UCLA. Iowa tries to drive down, but not good enough because UCLA's defense at this point is feeling it. They keep it going. Second half, 3 and out right away. Guess who's flying all over the place? These linebackers. And then yes, true dat, absolutely. You read my mind. Jay Toya, dominant in the middle, okay? The DNs were, I think it's the weakest point of the team, or at least the front 7. But Jay Toya in the middle, and then these linebackers, my goodness. He does get held every other play. He's clogging it up in the middle. And look, football it's a team sport. As great as these linebackers are, if Jay Toya isn't clogging up 1 to 2 offensive linemen every play, there isn't the freedom for Femi and Kane and Carson to go flying around. But Toya's doing his job. He's eating up the offensive linemen inside, giving space for these linebackers to come flying up the gaps or on the edge, and they certainly did that today. We didn't even get yet to the second Schlesinger pick. This one, after it was 17-10, was all UCLA needed, right? They actually miss a field goal after this, and Iowa does then march down with a backup QB. This was just, they're going to score, okay? But in my opinion, this is still a statement from this defense. You give up 17 points, that's fine. The offense wasn't great today because they turned the ball over so many times. You turn the ball over twice in the red zone, that's at the bare minimum 6 points you left on the board, but easily could have been 14 points you left on the board, despite the costly turnovers, okay? The defense does its job. That's the story. The linebacking core is elite. And this is great for the rest of this season. We know we have elite linebacking core, but this is also huge for the future. Like I said, if you're a linebacker that wants to play in the Big Ten and you watch this game, what team are you committing to now? Is it Iowa or is it UCLA? It's UCLA. So this win has so many implications. You've won 3 in a row, and Bieniemy deserves credit. Was going to talk about that 3rd and 8 at the end of the game. The offense or the announcers are going to make it sound like it was this unbelievable risk to throw the ball. It wasn't. There's 2:11 on the clock. Even if the play takes 6 seconds and you throw an incomplete pass and punt, by the end of that punt, it's the 2-minute warning anyways. So Iowa's going to have no timeouts, no more stoppages in play to march down the field and tie the game with a field goal. So the time was not a factor there. Of course, if you run the ball, guess what? And you get stopped, you're punting after the 2-minute warning, but then Iowa has the ball with 1:52 and no timeouts. Cool. Versus you throw the ball, even if it's an incomplete pass and there's 2:06 left or something, you punt, it takes 6 seconds. They have the ball with 2 minutes instead of 1:52. No difference. So it wasn't this amazing decision to throw the ball. It was the smart decision, though. So you deserve your credit, Eric Bieniemy, DeShaun Foster, for electing to go with the pass. It's a nice play action. Garbers does his job, and Quasi Gilmer and Titus both have big games. Fitting that Titus is able to clinch this one with that 3rd down catch. Fitting that UCLA was able to clinch this game on a 3rd down throw, because that's what they did all game long. So in terms of the boxes that need to be checked, You dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides. You dominate on third down. And sure, the turnover battle was a mess, but it ends up 3-3. That cancels out. You hit a 57-yard field goal. Sure, you miss one as well, but you hit a 57-yard field goal. That ends up being the difference. The turnovers were a wash, but you dominated this game yardage-wise. You dominated the line of scrimmage. And boy, oh boy, once again, it's a statement win. We're going to take our last break here, and then we're going to have a quick third segment where we're going to talk about the rest of the season. 3 games left. Is UCLA going to make it to a bowl game? I'll tell you that after our last break here on the Locked On UCLA Postcast. Today's show is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA or IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhoodgold.com, at robinhood.com/gold. I always mess that up. Terms apply for product-specific disclosures. Visit, once again, robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. And finally, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action and college football with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Back here live one more time on the Locked On UCLA Postcast. I'm Gavin Carlson, and the Bruins are victorious again. 3 Big Ten wins in a row. UCLA now 4-5 on the season after the 1-5 start. They now are 3-4 in the conference. They can finish with a winning record in the Big Ten. That's a real possibility after a 20-17 statement win. Iowa came to town. They came to the Rose Bowl, and they got out Iowa'd. They got out Iowa. We beat them at their own game, dominated in the run game, 211 yards for us on the ground, hold the Hawkeyes to 80. It was the best running game in the conference. That looked like the worst, and it was the worst running game in the conference. That looked like the best. Talk about turning the tides. DeShaun Foster deserves so much credit. I know he's not the one calling plays on either side, but he's the one motivating this team. And this was a game that was, we out-physicaled them, we out-mentality'd them. That's not even a word, but you know what I mean. DeShaun Foster deserves a lot of credit, and so does Bieniemy, and so does Akaka Malloy. They all do. Garbers, we talked about him a little bit. Shaky game at times. He got it done when he needed to, okay? And this is why another reason why it's an Iowa game. The run game carried, and on third down, he did his job. If he doesn't turn the ball over, we dominate, and that's the next step. If we want to be a Big Ten type of team, you got to clean up the turnovers, but you can't really ask for more in terms of what this team showed today. Now, real quick, we're going to look at the remaining schedule and wonder whether or not UCLA can make it to a bowl game. Of course, you got to win 6 games, and we're now 4-5, which means you got to win 2 more. You got 3 more games left. You go at Washington next week. Huge game, 6 p.m. I think it's another Friday night game, I believe. I think that's this exact same slate. Yes, it is. November 15th, 6 p.m. on a Friday night again. And this is going to be an even game. ESPN is giving Washington a 70% chance, according to their analytics, but they did the same for Iowa, okay? This game is going to be a wash. I think we have the advantage in terms of the momentum. Certainly, Washington's kind of been up and down. They've shown good streaks. They did just come off a huge win against USC, but they play Penn State tomorrow at Penn State. That's a tough team to play against, because not only are you probably going to lose, but you're going to get bruised. It's going to be a physical game. You expect Penn State to be pissed off after their loss. Don't be surprised if you see a couple guys. I'm not wishing it on them, but don't be surprised if you see a couple Washington guys get hurt or at least be banged up. It's going to be a tough game. So UCLA is going to be in a good spot where You also, a key thing here, you get an extra day of rest. I know some people don't think it's a big deal, but you talk to people who bet on the NFL, who bet on college football, who know the game to the nitty-gritty. And 1 day of rest, it's a big deal. Especially UCLA played this game at home. We're going to sleep good tonight in our own beds, have an extra day of rest. Meanwhile, Washington's flying all the way to Pennsylvania tomorrow. Maybe they're already there. Then they got to fly all the way back to Washington. Okay, so they got a lot more travel than us, and we got an extra day of rest. That's a big deal. Big deal. We get the full 7 days. They only get 6. And so because of that, and because of how hot we are, meanwhile, Washington's coming off a 40-16 loss to this same Iowa team 3 games ago, and then a loss to Indiana. So yes, they got a big win against USC, but we'll see. Is that more because USC is just down in the dumps, or because this Washington team is maybe looking like the same team that beat Michigan 5 games ago? Who knows? Who knows? But you got Washington at this point. Call me biased. I'm giving the Bruins a slight edge. Okay? We'll see how Washington looks tomorrow, but as of now, I'm giving the Bruins a slight edge because of the travel, because we've won 3 in a row, because we seem to have found our stride, especially if we can get a J.Michael Sturdivant back next week. We didn't even talk about the fact that the wide receiving core looked pretty darn good without him. So if he comes back, or Rico Flores, the offense is going to be a little more dynamic. I'm giving us the edge. And then, of course, after that, you know who the next opponent is. USC. And boy, are they a mess. It's starting to remind me a lot of last year, or the last couple of years. USC, all these expectations, they're falling apart. We know what we did to USC last year at the Coliseum. I was there. What a crazy environment. Chip Kelly on the chopping block. I was there. If we lose that game, you're expecting him to be fired maybe. There was talk before the game about it. There was talk after the game. I was in the press conference. It was a really interesting press conference. You have Ethan Garbers and other players saying, we stand with Chip Kelly. He's laughing off the rumors. Surely enough, we know what happened there. So who knows what will happen in 2 weeks when we play USC. But it's a rivalry game. It's a coin flip game. If you win next week against Washington, then that game is to win a bowl, or to get to a bowl. You can clinch a bowl berth at home at the Rose Bowl against USC. How great would that feel? And if you do that, then you got Fresno State at home, the last game of the year. You don't think there's suddenly going to be UCLA fans filling that stadium to watch a team that's maybe coming off 5 wins in a row if you can beat Washington and USC? Or at worst, maybe you lose to Washington, but then either way, the people are going to come for the USC game. And if you win that game, then you need the Fresno game for the bowl berth. They're still going to pack it. They know that game's going to matter. It's going to be the last game for a lot of seniors, of course. And I just think there's no way at this point. Call me crazy. And it's a crazy thing to say no way. But there's no way. After 3 wins in a row like this, we can't win 2 of our next 3 when one of them is Fresno State, who at this point I can say we are a better football team than. Come on. I think it's going to happen. If you had to put my life on the line, crazy I'm saying this, but UCLA is going to a bowl game in 2024. And who would have thought that after a 1-5 start? If that does happen, there's absolutely nothing else to call this other than a successful season. Before the year, if UCLA made it to a bowl game, you're saying it's a successful year. But after the start we had, and now looking at what the schedule for UCLA has actually been, the only loss where UCLA maybe shouldn't lose is Minnesota. Otherwise, it's 4 games against 4 ranked teams while you have a first-year head coach in DeShaun Foster. Absolutely, it's a success. It is a successful win. I can't speak. I'm so jazzed up. But man, oh man, couple comments. I'm going to look at them real quickly. True Dat saying UCLA was much more physical. Absolutely. Sean says Garbers looked rough in that first half, but props to the team for staying in the game and winning it. Yes, once again, mentality. DeShaun Foster deserves so much credit. Yep, both of you guys saying that you like DeShaun Foster getting pissed off after a couple missed calls by the refs. Love that. Not a lot of penalties, yes. But once again, and this is the one right here. Sean says, Foster has that leadership factor that Chip never had. He is a true leader of men. Amen. Amen. We see it right here. This is a mentality game. And DeShaun Foster is the number one person who deserves credit for that. With all that being said, Sean, I got you. Of course, we're going to finish off with the 8 clap. Thanks so much for watching this latest edition of the Locked On UCLA Postcast. Join me on Sunday for the Locked On Rams Postcast. Join me next Friday night. We're going to do the Locked On UCLA Postcast again, hopefully after a 4th straight win. But once again, UCLA 20, Iowa 17. The Bruins have won 3 in a row. They're balling in the Big Ten, and they might just be bowl game bound. Let's wrap it up the right way. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. This has been the Locked On UCLA Postcast. I am Gavin Carlson. And yes, Sean, I will see you at the SC game. I will be there. Absolutely. Take care, everybody. Enjoy your Friday night. Enjoy your weekend. Join me on the Postcast for the Rams on Sunday. And we'll see you next week for this very same show after, hopefully, another win. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.